Hey, it's Tim here. In today's video, we're doing the very last function in the LOD series, and that is the exclude function. Now, at this point, you've hopefully had a chance to see the fixed level of detail video and the include level of detail video, and hopefully you've also done the sort of pre-reading with the order of operations and the granularity video that I released previously just before this very video. So if you haven't, check out the playlist. I'll put it in the pop-up on screen so you can see all of those videos in one place. But essentially, what we're going to do today is cover the exclude function. And the reason I'm calling those videos out is because it's actually really important context for today's video. I deliberately chose sort of the order that we did this in so that I could easily refer to other videos in subsequent videos, okay? And so essentially today we're going to focus on the exclude function. Right, again, I'm going to hop into Tableau without any sort of hesitation. I'm going to connect to Superstore and we're going to set up a very simple example, okay? Now, I think the exclude one is probably the easiest one to understand because you can literally see what it's doing, a bit like the include actually, and there's a nice sort of comparison to the include function as well. So let's just build a very simple view. Let's open up our product and location hierarchy. I'm going to drag category onto rows and subcategory onto rows as well. And then we're going to put sales here where it says ABC. So now you can see the values for each of these particular subcategories, okay? And where we were before is with the include function, what essentially that was doing is it was working with the viz level of detail in the visualization. By that, if I just do a quick refresher on the viz level of detail, we're talking about anything that you put on the color, size, text, detail, anything you might put on the path if you have that, anything you put on column and rows, those all contribute to the viz level of detail if there's some sort of day or dimension, okay? And so those are the kind of things we need to be looking at. You can also put a dimension here in pages, and technically speaking it's part of the viz level of detail, but strictly speaking it's sort of not. You can sort of debate it. I guess maybe a Tableau developer can let us know what the official answer is, but essentially anything you put on these places contributes to the viz level of detail. And the thing is, with the exclude function, it basically works with the viz level of detail. So whatever I have in my visualization is going to contribute to the level of detail calculation. The exact same thing was true with the include function. The include function was essentially bringing in an additional level of detail into the visualization, but only in the calculation that you are writing, okay? And the fixed level of detail worked exclusively with what was given to it inside of the level of detail calculation. So it was not listening to the viz level of detail. It was working independent of the viz level of detail, okay? And so with the exclude function, it's actually really easy to just show you what it does, because this is the one where I think I can very, very quickly show you what it does and we can set it up. So I'm just going to get right into this and just start writing the function here in front of you. So let's just make this larger so you can see this. And the thing you want to do is, as always, open up an LOD with this curly brackets, and this time we're using exclude, and always try and use the autocomplete if you can, because it just makes things a lot better for you and it means you don't mistype anything. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to exclude the subcategory just so you can see what's going on here, okay? Subcategory is right there, and then I'm going to go ahead and do my aggregation that I already have in the visualization. If you want to, you can actually hold control or, on a Windows or command on a Mac and just bring that in so you get the exact same aggregation. Then hold shift and I'm going to close this with a curly bracket. So we've pretty much written our LOD, okay? And so what this is basically saying, let's just do the anatomy of this again before we see what it does. So we're opening up our LOD with the curly brackets, and we're then specifying the LOD function right here, and then we're basically telling it what level of detail to be looking at. And so what the exclude will do is it will look at the visualization and it will take this subcategory right here, and you can see that it's there, and it will be like me removing this subcategory from the visualization. So it's almost like I've gone into the visualization with this calculation and I've removed subcategory from the row shelf, even though it's still in the visualization, okay? And then once it's done that, it's going to do this aggregation over here on the right hand side. So you've got sum of sales, and then obviously you just close it off. So if I just go back one and I actually just square this off, this is the aggregation that it's then going to do once it's excluded the subcategory from the viz level of detail. So much easier to sort of show you that in action. So let's just clear this up, and I'm just going to write this here so you can very easily see. So aggregate sales after excluding subcategory from the viz level of detail. Okay. So let's just put this on a new line. You can actually do block comments here. So in 2020.4, I think it was, they added the ability to do block comments. And now I can't find the star on my keyboard. This is awful. So here we go. Here's a star. Here's a backslash. And then we can do replace this here with a star. And again, I can't find it. Total memory blank. There we go. And I think if I just put that there, then that will work better. So now you can see I'm doing a block comment there. And basically all I'm doing is I'm just removing the subcategory from the viz level of detail there. You can see that there. Okay, so let's hit apply, and then let's go and get our calculation. Now I didn't call this, so I didn't call this a name, so let's give it a name. Exclude subcat sum of sales, just so we can easily call it out once it's been created. And now that will go over here to the bottom left. So over here you can just see that it's popped up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it from this position here and drag it inside my visualization. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. Let's drag it, and I'm just going to put it into the table here. And when you do that, you'll see that we get an answer back. Okay. And so essentially what you can see is that you've got this value here, 742,000, repeating across the furniture category. And so you can hopefully see exactly what I said is happening. It's basically taking this aggregation and it's doing it as if the subcategory is not in the visualization. Okay, so if you go and take the total of category, you'll get 742,000. Then it's just repeating that across every row. It's as if subcategory doesn't exist. You'll get the exact same answer if I remove subcategory on this column on the left. So let me just show you. Remove subcategory. Now you see these values match up. Add it back in, and you see you just get a repeating row. So what you can then do is you can also do almost the exact same thing we did with the fixed function at the very beginning of this course, which is essentially to just basically do a percentage of total using this particular aggregation. And so I'm not going to repeat that here. It's very easy to see and understand how to do that. You basically just put sum of sales over this new function and you're pretty much good to go. Now, there's also something else that's really interesting, and that is here that you can see that it's actually attributing this as an attribute. Okay, it's actually kind of giving it an attribute to this whole data set. And that's sort of true, because if you think about what it's got to do and the way the aggregation works, that's really the only way it can actually apportion this value to this visualization. Because if it was actually doing anything at the same level of detail as this subcategory, then it would not be an attribute in essence. So this might be sort of something that you'll see happening when you do a calculation on at a dimension, or maybe you're doing some sort of aggregate function and you're trying to sort of bring back just a single value. You'll see this attribute function come up. Check out my other video on this. I've gone into way more detail and it's way more coherent than what I'm saying right now about this function. So the exclude function is super simple. It's actually as simple as the include function. What the include function was doing was bringing something into the view, and the exclude function is just taking something out of the view, then doing the calculation. Okay, and then as a reminder, the fixed function is essentially doing the calculation with whatever you've given it in the calculation. It ignores the visualization view. Okay, so that's pretty much a summary of this one. It's actually, it sounds bizarre how simple this calculation is, right? But hopefully you can start to see how it might be useful. Let's say you've got some sort of total and you'd like to do a comparison of some sort. This is actually a really nice calculation to have in hand. Now, I have to be honest, I can't remember the last time I used this function. I think because of the way it works, it's just not sort of the inherent way that you think about creating this kind of calculation. What I would have typically done is, I think the lazy way of doing things is I'm always going off and writing a fixed level of detail at the exact level of detail that I need, and then using that value, because I know that will never change, because it's, calculating that whatever context that you have in the viz. So the risk with the include and exclude function is that they can sometimes be messed messed up by what you have in the visualization. Let's say that I go in and I add, let's say I add some other element of the hierarchy. Let's say that I add, I'm going to add region. I think that's sort of the highest level that will sort of be visible. If I add region to the viz, you'll see that this number now changes, but I might not have wanted that number changed because I might have wanted to see the percentage of total compared to the whole category, but broken down by region. And so I could see, okay, central makes up 20% of the furniture region, and so on and so forth. That might have been a calculation that I wanted to do, but in this case, that's not what happens. Anytime I add another dimension that's not explicitly excluded from the viz level of detail here in my calculation, it's going to change my aggregation for you. Okay, so that's pretty much the exclude function. What I'm going to now do is show you another example, and for this one, this is a bit of a far-fetched example. It's actually one that I got from the top 15 LODs blog post that Bethany Lyons wrote from Tableau. There's a link to that in the description below. So we're going to try that out now, and I'm going to show you maybe something that you might be able to use this LOD for in the future. All right, let's get stuck in. Okay, so let me show you the example that we're going to create. If I just go over here to the browser, I've got a page already up. This is number 6 in Bethany Lyons' post about the top 15 LOD expressions you should know. It's a really, really good blog post. I'll link it in the description. I think I've linked to it in every LOD video. It's a really good basis for just understanding some use cases. And actually, if you know all these use cases, then you'll come up with other more creative use cases of your own when you start to see challenges in your own data set. So let's have a look at this example. Essentially what's happening here is that you're able to click on a particular category, and what you can do is you can essentially change the comparison for this one. So it's actually not by clicking, it's by using this parameter. So for example, if I was to go to appliances, what it does is it recalculates the difference based on this particular value. So the value here on the left hand side, you can see this is basically 0, and it's showing you how all of the other categories are performing compared to appliances. And then if you change this to, let's say, envelopes, you'll see that the chart changes because envelopes is all the way down here, and pretty much all the other categories are doing much better. So it's a nice way of sort of doing a comparison. We know tables don't perform well in Tableau because, you know what, tables. So here we are. So this is a really nice sort of tool that you might use. It uses a parameter to change these values. So I'm basically going to show you how to build this. You can also just come here and follow the how-to guide, but I'll sort of show you how to build it, and we'll build the exclude function in there as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this example here that I've got in my window. I'm just going to open up a new sheet, and what I like to do is I just like to set up a table to start with. So the first thing I want to do is bring in a subcategory, and I just want to bring in the sales. And all I want to do is compare the differences between these. So we've got our numbers here, which is great. And so what I'd like to do is I just like to set everything up in a table when I'm doing something complex, because then I can see the numbers. I know the visualization could do the same thing, but the issue with the visualization is that it immediately starts to create distractions. Now you start worrying about formatting, spacing, labels, all of that stuff, just a distraction. And so you don't actually focus enough on just getting the calculation right. So top tip, if you want to make sure all your numbers are always accurate and things are done nicely, just focus on the table. Build out your solution, build out your calculations as a table. Then once you've got the numbers absolutely tight, just start building the charts from there, because then you have the confidence to just throw stuff into the visualization and it's not going to change. Okay, so let's go ahead and start creating different things. So the first thing I need to do is to create a parameter. So I'm just going to right click on this white space here, create a parameter, and we're just basically going to call this subcats. I'm very lazy, so I'll call it subcats. Maybe there's a good meme for that. And we're gonna load it up with strings, okay? And the value when workbook opens, we can actually, set this up with a bunch of other values, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna use a list of items, and I'm gonna add values from the subcategory here. So you can see that it automatically went and populated everything with something from the categories. And so that's pretty much it. I'm pretty happy. What you could have done, sometimes it's better when you're working with databases to use an integer. And so what an integer does is actually just more efficient because you're using numbers, and so it takes less computing space to store. Then you don't get this nice ability to add from the data set. So for this demo, I'll just choose a string, and we'll go and add values from subcategory, and you'll see that that's now populated. You can of course change how they're displayed, but we're not going to do that. We're going to keep that as is, and we're going to hit OK, right click, and show the parameter. So now we have our parameter here on the right hand side. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to create a calculation essentially. So we're just basically going to say this is the selected subcat sales. Okay, subcat sales, and basically you're going to say oh, let's see how we'd write this. There's a couple of ways we could do this. Let's write this the easy way. If let's say if category, let's make this larger as well before I forget. Okay, is equal to subcat subcat, which is the parameter. It's a good thing I put an S there. Then I could write sum of sales here, but I'm just going to write sales because what we can do is aggregate everything afterwards. Then sales, else I'm just going to put 0. I'm not going to null because I don't want this to sort of return errors. Else 0, and just do that. So let me just sort of spell that out in plain English. So basically we're saying if this, not the category, we could write the right thing here in the first place. If the subcategory is equal to the subcat's parameter, then give us the sales, otherwise 0. Okay. So what that will do is it will only return the sales for the currently selected subcat. So let's hit apply and hit OK, and then let's just drag this into the view, and you can see that everything is 0 apart from accessories, because accessories is the currently selected subcategory. So that's why we get the value there and nowhere else. Let's go ahead and just switch this around to make sure that's working, and now that's perfect. Okay, so now that's working really well. Let's try and use the function that we remembered last time. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and create another calculation, and this time we're going to use the exclude function that we just learned. So we're going to open up with a curly brackets, type in exclude, and the thing we're excluding from this visualization is the subcategory, because what that will do is it will just return the number across the whole entire data set, bearing in mind that we've basically filtered out all the other subcategories through the calculation. Okay, so because every other value is 0 here, if we remove subcategory on this aggregation here, the only thing that will be left will be that value. Okay, so that's just something interesting here. My measure value shelf has completely disappeared, so I might have to reset the view in a second, but never mind. Let's just finish this. So exclude subcat, and then we're going to bring in our aggregation. I'll bring it in from the left hand side here. This is called subcat sales. Where has it gone? Here we go. Selected subcat sales. So basically, if that's going on, then we just need to do a sum over here and a sum over there, and then end up with a curly brackets. Okay, so now the calculation valid. What this is basically saying is, go into the visualization, you can see it's here, and essentially we're basically asking this calculation to go to the viz and remove this from the visualization, then do the aggregation that we've asked it to do, sum of selected subcat sales. Okay, and so let's just clear this annotation and hit OK. Before we hit OK, let's give it a good name. So let's say call this comparison value. Okay, you'll see why I'm calling it comparison value in a second. Hit apply and click OK. And now if I drag this into the view, you'll see that I now get that 16,000 across every single row. So now we've got this working nicely. The last thing to do is just to create a calculated field. And this is where I want to reset my my worksheet a little bit. So if I just go to where are all my cards? If I just reset the cards, how weird is that? It's just clearly a bug. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if I'm missing something here, or I should really see a measure values shelf here. So let me just make sure. There it is. So I've had to manually bring that on, but when you reset these cards, that should, wow, okay. By default, it doesn't show. And when has that ever happened? Okay, that's completely new to me, but never mind. we'll keep it on. And so here we are. Now I can write my calculation, and we're ready. We're pretty much ready to go. So let's just do this, and now we can start to sort of string together the calculation that we need to do. So it's quite easy. We just want to take away sales basically from that one and this one. Okay, so those are the two things that we want to use, and we just basically want to do that. Okay, now I'm trying to think which is the correct way of doing it. We're basically trying to compare things to the sum of sales. So if it's larger, we should I think we've done this the wrong way around. I think we should actually do this, I believe. So let's just do this correctly, and let's get rid of that last one. So let's just zoom this in. So basically we're comparing the value to the sum of sales, and we're basically then just going to say comparison. We could have done this as a percentage. That's probably would have been a much nicer thing to do, but we'll just call this final comparison for argument's sake. Final comparison. And we're pretty much good to go. So hit apply, and now we have that value over there. So now I can drag that into the view, and you can see here that it's actually gone right in front of this particular table. What we can do is we can actually drag it down to the bottom so it's in the correct order. So let's just have a look and make sure this makes sense as I was suggesting. So we've got envelopes here, and we have copiers, which is sold considerably more. And so this is coming up as -133. I knew I should have put it the other way around. I could probably hear you all shouting at me on the screen saying, no, it's the other way around. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go here into edit, and let's just do that again. I knew I got it the right way around the first time. Just trust your gut, Tim. Trust your gut. It doesn't matter how many times I do this, I'll always forget which way around I'm supposed to be doing this. There we go, that's better. So now we can actually see how much more other categories are and how much less they are as well here. So now we've got that as a number. Then the best thing we can do here is we can just duplicate this. I always like to keep the table there. I just, if something breaks in the viz, I can come back in here and fix it. So I duplicated it just by right-clicking the sheet and selecting duplicate. If you're wondering where I am, I'm right here at the bottom. So I'm right-clicking on this and selecting duplicate, and that's basically allowing me to create this. And then what I can now do is I can turn this into a viz. So essentially to do that, I can just get rid of everything, okay? And just leave those two things, sum of sales and final comparison. And then we're pretty much good to go. So what I can do at this point is I can just bring these here onto the view, and you can see that you get this sort of nice chart. We've put the measure names at the top, but you can basically kind of see the comparison sort of in earnest. And then what we can do is we can just sort these by whatever metric we want to sort them by. If I sort them here by whatever's on the right hand side, then it kind of makes sense. And then the last thing you want to do is to just show your parameter, so we can make sure we get this going quite nicely. What I might also do is I might drag the final comparison onto color. I'll hold Control on the Windows, Command on a Mac, and put that on color, so we get this sort of nice separation, which is great. So now we're pretty much ready to go. Let's have a look at this. So let's go look at envelopes. That's actually what we're on already. Let's look at art. And you can see this is now changing really nicely, accessories. And because we've put the largest at the top, this is always going to be basically just moving this color up and down. I've sort of ordered this in a sort of biased way. So because we're ordering in terms of sales, you'll always get a sort of phones and chairs always having a higher value, and we're just basically moving sort of the cutoff point. What we could do is we could change things around if, let's say, we didn't sort this that way at all. So let's just do this again. So we just get this random sort here, and now if we were to choose binders, for example, you can see that it gets a little bit messy and it's a little hard to see what's going on. So I think sorting, human beings love a little bit of order. So you can obviously sort here on the axis like so, and then you get back to a really nice setup. So that is a good example of the exclude function. It's probably the only example I can think of that's simple to show in this video, but that's pretty much it. Now, again, I'm going to remind everyone about the resources. So we've got this blog post here. If you just go to Google and type in Tableau LODs, you'll come up with a bunch of great resources from Tableau themselves. These two are probably the best ones. They basically tell you how level of details expressions works, the limitations. It goes into this concept of the viz level of detail. You see, here's the official answer. Pages is part of the view level detail. Now, I could swear I read a white paper where that wasn't in there, but never mind. I wasn't sure at the time, but now I think we have the answer. You can also see the limitations, what databases aren't supported here as well. And then there's obviously a lot more detail about how to actually create them as well in the documentation, which is a great place to go. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, please do share it with people who might find it useful. I feel like LODs are one of these amazing concepts where if you know about it, you're just going to make your life so much easier in terms of the way you write calculations. It's just such a fundamental part of Tableau. I can't even imagine a world without it. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching and we'll catch you in the next video.